Those are feet on the legs of an Aboriginal elder in the Northern Territories of Australia. And he is where we're heading. Our society of a super interconnected global world is over. And welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al-Bab. I, your griot, your Sensei Al-Bab, is here to tell you a story. I'm wearing my spacesuit, and the only thing that's going to really save us, one is our empathy within the construct of love's co-creation, or extraterrestrials. What do you call them? Nice ones. And I don't know if you're old enough or have seen enough Twilight Zones, but there's one where these big, tall guys, and they were like Lurch, Lurch played the big, tall alien, the big head. And he lands on the front lawn of the UN, and it says, okay, we're taking over, but we're nice, we're beneficial. We're going to cure your disease, stop war, end famine, make your society, heaven on earth, right? And it's because we're nice guys, right? And so they give him this book, right? And the character, who's our hero, doesn't trust him, right? And he's a code breaker, right? And so he's been, involved in World War II and the Cold War, and he's, and the first thing that they, untangle and can tell you what it means is the title, To Serve Man, right? So he's been, the thorn in the side. No, we've got to watch out for these guys. Nobody does this. No. And so, he's, still working at trying to decode their big book that they gave them. And, years go by, and everyone goes off to their planet, and it's like a mixture of Hawaii and whatever, Bali or whatever nice place. And everyone sends back postcards saying, oh, it's a great place. You should go. And so, and people seem to stay there, right? They don't come back. Oh, it's so nice, and I'm going to stay here, right? So, so he finally breaks down, and he hasn't taken a vacation, so he decides to go off to the planet and see what it's like. And as he's waiting online to get on board the flying saucer, his assistant comes running in. No, Bob, don't get on the boat. It's the cookbook. It's a what? Huh? To Serve Man. It's a cookbook, right? And so, he's on board, and he's in this little stall, and they keep bringing him food. Oh, we need to fatten you up, because, they're going to throw him in the pot. So, and that looks like, if you look at the folks like Miss Eisenhower, she's, I had her on last night, and, she talks about, the deals that have been made, since, the turn of the 20th century, the late 19th century, and all through man's time. You look at the Bible, angels coming from the sky and lights and, fiery wheels, if these aren't spaceships, I don't know what are. And, the Anunnaki coming down and having, relations with earthly women and making, hybrids. This ain't, what's going on. I don't know what is. So, but we are surely not told by our media, right? And if you go to Cliff, buddy, I really like Cliff. I like all the people I show you. and not that I agree with anything they say, it's that they put forth a real, you know, especially Cliff. I mean, he's not, David Icke, you know, et al. They're, they're putting forth their passionate belief, right? Whether that's true or not, I don't know. Certain things ring to my gut, and I think, okay, but I don't take the whole thing in, right? Unless have guys like Joseph P. Farrell. He is a very strange guy, but he has been studying what he studies really well. And deep journalism and Truth TV, those guys, very strange, but there are a lot of interesting things on there. So I don't believe in anything. I just have faith in love's co-creation. So here's a little bit of Cliff, right? And this is Cliff Hyde, and his channel is Critical Thinking.
All about what they got wrong. Wrong, why Kerry Cassidy's wrong, why Jason F4 is wrong, why Jordan Sather is wrong, why David Wilcock is wrong, why David Icke is wrong, Alfred Lambermont Weber, all these conspiracy guys, why they're all wrong, what they've all missed. And also some of the normies like Tim Pool, why Tim Pool is wrong as well. Okay, so we have two issues. We're going to discuss these in a fairly straightforward, snappy little manner here. Lots of drawing on our board. So we have, oddly enough though, this is only one of our issues right here. The other issue is over there. Okay, so we can think of the bioweapon, what we'll call the CV, or there are other names for it.
I call it Nouveau 19.
That's a problem. And it creates illness and so on. And then there's all these conspiracies that are wrapped up around the illness. But that's really the smallest aspect of what we've got to deal with. The very smallest aspect. So this is problem number one here. And proportionately, it should only really be occupying this amount of the board right up there.
The virus,
so all this stuff right here
it, right?
Should be squished down into that little space, right?
But all of this over here,
so that all of that just comes out of that little area. Then the rest of the board over here is to address the real problem, which is that civilization is broken. And if we think of civilization appropriately, we will come to the realization that Jean Baudrillard was quite correct. He's a post-Marxist French philosopher. And he's quite correct in being able to define civilization as a system of systems. And so the current civilization we're in right now was broken by the bioweapon on October 19, 2019. And that civilization had taken almost 50 years to progress from 1970 to 2020. And we called that civilization globalization. And it's broken. And it was a system of systems. It was a system of more than just a system of systems. It was a system metaphor applied over the top. It was a system plan, a system design applied over the top of all of the other systems. So this was the just-in-time inventory model that was applied to, and actually we should have a little tilde symbol there, that was applied to all of the other systems. So every system was invoking the just-in-time inventory system where you manufacture it, you basically store it in the transport until it arrives at the destination, where it's assembled into whatever it's supposed to be. And then that device or whatever it's supposed to be gets into another transport system, which is also its warehousing, and it's stored there until it gets in the hands of the consumer. So there's no warehousing, there's no inventorying. So you start off with big piles of raw material here in trees or mines or whatever, big piles of raw material that then spend most of their life in transport, a little tiny bit of their life in fabrication, and then more time in transport, and then put into use. And they have planned obsolescence, and they're supposed to drop off and die and all of this kind of stuff. And so that you would then go back, and everybody who was a consumer, this was all intended to support the consumer society. And that died on October 19th. So all of this is gone. The whole just-in-time transport system is gone. There's no more big boats coming from China filled with containers. We won't get any more containers from China, likely. Wherever the containers are at the moment, they're going to be stuck there for a long time. Not because we run out of oil, not because we run out of ships, but rather because we run out of something to put into those containers to make it worthwhile to move them somewhere else. And so the containers...
Okay, I won't go on, and he goes on and 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 on. And he describes it very clearly, that this system is broke, and we, it's just what's left in the line that's coming to us, and it's going to stop, right? And then, unless we are growing our own food, and that moron governor and wherever she is, making sure that people can't grow their own food. Plus, the other thing is, forget global warming, we're heading into an ice age. If you've been watching Diamond on Oppenheimer Ranch channel, he's a very good historical weather guy. I mean, he looks at trends. And pretty much we're going into an ice age, right? And there's all these other things that our electromagnetic field of our planet is slipping faster than it ever has in recorded scientific time. And and things are, zipping past us, that if any one of them, we had this gigantic rock fly between the moon and Earth, back in January or February. And, it was just a blip because it kind of shot through. But I saw the nightly news when, NBC or CBS or whatever it was. And this guy who was, I was looking at my screen and this thing, and he said, it flew from out of the solar system, didn't come from where we're normally looking for stuff to come at us. It just, and we didn't even notice it until it flew through our, our field of vision of radar and telescopes, because we keep an eye on all the garbage around us in space, all the little bolts and gloves and whatever that we've left up there, zooming around at 17,000 miles an hour. So any of those things hit our, important satellites, communications, spy, weather, and all, it goes away, and space station gets hit by little teeny things, all the time. And anyway, so that's all going away, and we're going to de-evolve, right? And this was all caused by China, either through incompetence or on purpose, right? And because Xi Jinping basically said in October, with the little, trade war we were having, that China was in a real war with America. And obviously, they weren't going to start shooting at us because they had, our military might is bigger than the whole world put together. But as it, see the aircraft carrier of Theodore Roosevelt, you have tightly packed military group on board a ship. They get sick. Ooh, that ship ain't worth nothing, even though it cost $16 billion. And so, this was, if China did this on purpose, they sacrificed, a few million people to, core out the Western world. But why would they do that when their whole economics and everything depends on being that just-in-time purveyor of the widget, right? So I lean more towards incompetence, right? And the fact that they try to hush it up the first, because it kind of happened to them in October 19th, when they kind of really said, uh-oh, when these doctors started saying, hey, I think there's something wrong here, and those guys got thrown in jail or killed. And then it just, broke out. And the fact that there are three different strains, A, B, and C. A, you just kind of get a cold. B, you die. C is somewhere in between, and it goes after certain groups of people, right? So that's why it kind of looks like a bioweapon, and that's why I'm wearing my bio spacesuit. I'm trying to look like I'm in a bio spacesuit, but it's already affecting everyone, right? I'm out in the middle of nowhere. I don't see anybody, so physically, the chances of me getting it, I go in shopping once, I go amongst the supermarket folk, maybe 3 times a month, if that. And I wear a mask and gloves, and I was doing that back, in March, early March, I was doing that. People looking at me strange. Everybody else is wearing a mask and gloves, and they don't like it. And they complain. And I don't, I just go and get my yogurt and my bread and my eggs and a few other things. And because $54 of food stamps doesn't buy much. Anyway, so, and, whatever kind of car you have, if it breaks, within the next year or two, oops, that's going to be a problem, So, and my little beater is in another state, I'm having a problem getting that here. So, anyway, that's kind of how it rolls. So, I can't say any more than that. There's one of you, 17 minutes. So that man, this guy, these guys will survive, even though they've been, they are all the people who have been attacked and going after, the indigenous folk. They're going to survive, because they're not in a production chain, they're not, waiting to buy stuff. They're not consumers, they are, basically hunter-gatherer / predators, more than white people are. White people think they're, I'm such a predator on Wall Street. I'm such a predator. I go out there with my big gun. Well, these guys know how to trap things. I saw these guys fishing with a stick, not with a string and a hook on it, which needed to be made in a factory. But, they sharpened the point and they waited by the water. And when the fish came by, they speared it, And I saw them make traps for squirrels, insects. But mostly they ate insects, tons of insects out there, And they would pull back the bark of a tree and there'd be all these larvae. And, we'd eat those, There was a thing that I thought I loved because it was like pork rinds covered in chocolate with sprinkles on it, right? And that was my favorite thing they would give me to eat. I said, what is this? And I said, oh, we can't tell you. And so for no longer the time, they'd bring me a piece of bark with, these pork rinds with chocolate and sprinkles on it. I don't see you guys having any jars of chocolate or bags of pork rinds. What the heck is this? So one day, the old lady who's the matriarch / woman of the woods, their version of a old crone, she was old. All these guys were in their hundreds, right? And they were in better shape than me. And I was in my best shape there, and they could walk me out, work me out, and they were in their hundreds, and they were semi-obese, and but they were in better shape, that's for sure, because they were in homeostasis, in balance with their nature, right? Anyway, this lady and this guy say, "You want to see what this is?" They walked over to the tree, picked up a rock, whacked the side of a tree, got a purchase on a piece of bark, ripped it off, and there are all these maggots, big larvae, fat maggots, right? Or I don't know what kind of wormy things they were, but they were wormy, kind of looking like that. But they were clearish, yellowish, and they took the rock, and there were like hundreds of these things swirling around on the piece of bark, and they just went boom, 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 and kind of smashed them up with the rock. And once all those guys stopped roaming around, they kind of stuck it in the sun a little bit for, an hour or so. And then they handed me the bark. And it looked just like the pork rinds, covered in chocolate with sprinkles. The pork rinds were the larvae guys. The chocolate was their blood. And the sprinkles were their fecal matter that exploded from their gut. And that's what I had been eating, for a good 3 or 4 months, thinking it was the best thing since a cheeseburger, right? It was high protein, really tasty. And by the time it got to me, the only thing of preparation other than hitting it with a rock, they put it into the sun where everything kind of congealed into a crispiness about it, right? It was crisp. And they didn't cook it. They just put it in the sun. That's how intense the sun was. And what was interesting, no other animals or bugs or anybody wanted to eat it, And, they would do that at the height of the sun, which was usually around 2 o'clock. And, and we didn't have it every day, but, at least once a week, because there wasn't only so many places where you could peel back the bark without killing the tree. And the larva was there. The tree was already on the way out. That's why the larva was there. And anyway, so unless you're ready to, live like these guys, you're going to have issues, right? And that's why it's going to be somewhat of conflict. And the only way that you can get through this is through love's co-creation, if you serve love's co-creation, right? And are we ready to do that? Watching this whole charade is being, severely controlled by the media and the, powers that shouldn't be in the hidden hand, etc. And they've lost, I don't know if they're really, because they're not really in charge, the Al Gores and Bill Bozos and people of that ilk, they're just middle management. They're trillionaires. They think they're, in charge. They own everything. And not really. What value is something that is so tenuous, so, ready to fall apart at any minute, And how stupid can you be to build a system that, Mr. Cliff was telling us in the beginning, right? And I think China, I don't know if China's really realized that it is toast, that, their whole little empire's gone, and because, no one liked being under, martial law all the time. And that's what the CCP, Communist Chinese Party, was, martial law, basically, with creature comforts. Under Mao, everyone was eating dirt, under the modern CCP, everyone, had Western clothes and maybe a car, definitely a bicycle, had a job, had food to eat, had a box to live in, right? had a TV to watch, had a smartphone maybe, as long as it was, keeping an eye on them. So that's where we're at, and guys like Richie from Boston who go, it's it's like forget it, it's past that, you know. How many trucks and tanks they stick in a quarry? The best thing they can do is just bulldoze dirt over them. They're not going to really help, right? And so that's what it's going to be. So right now, I would stop worrying about it. And if you're, stuck in a house with your family, you should spend this time to really make everyone in your family, all the ones who are in your love circle, you should really love them, right? And then your extended love circle, your community, you should really, your neighbor, really, really tell them how much you love them. And so I'm going to go until 33 minutes and 33 seconds, and then I'm going to go off and to the deep green and make myself breakfast, since I moved all my larder down there. It's not really hot. It's cold. It's gonna snow tonight. That's really why I'm wearing this coat. It's actually cold. So, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, reach out to the people. Hey, buddy. Well, I just have you been watching my more recent shows where I'm showing little clips of folks, and there's this guy, Cliff High. Yes, it's Critical Thinking with Cliff High. Now, this guy he's a computer programmer that made modeling for 40 years, right, for the Defense Department et al. So he modeled nuclear war, chemical war, biological war, and this thing's a biological weapon, and he goes on. So, but what he's really talking about today is how
off commodity as we go forward here, and there will be all kinds of cast-offs from our broken civilization. That is the broken globalization that took us nearly 50 years, that was destroyed in just mere months by the bioweapon that the Communist Party of China let loose. And we should note here that within the conspiracy areas, the Communist Party of China is pumping out vast quantities. So they're a feed source for conspiracies, because they're trying to desperately deflect blame from themselves for poisoning humanity and
breaking or breakable in time monetary system. I've been subdued to him for an age. Yeah. So he's again, it's his opinion. Whether he's right or wrong, he seems more right than people like David Icke or other conspiracy. Now, not the fact that David doesn't have a lot of points right. He's right on with the, cabal motif. And then there is, have you seen, I put up a sister named, she's, President Eisenhower's great-granddaughter, Laura Eisenhower. And, she has been contacted by the extraterrestrials, And my last 3 or 4 shows, I've, Richie from Boston, Cliff, Miss Laura, and a few others. And they all have little different points of view, Richie's going on about how, we're martial law. Well, we are. And we've been in martial law since 1776. So. Yep, seen a lot of Laura. Yep. So she's kind of pretty amazing. And I like her because, and all the people I put up are people who are really real, you know, just like these guys, you know. And this was 1977 when I lived with these guys, right? And I lived with them for, I don't know, 9, 10 months, almost a year. And they were the most real people they were. And they were genocided and they were, you know, just terribly treated. But it was amazing because they held no ill will towards anybody, right? And the fact that I showed up and they knew about me before I even came to Australia, they were like in my dreams. That's why this is Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Bob, because they lived in dreamland, right? Yep, RP. Cool little military Christian, yep. So, and I've lived with lots of other indigenous folk, and they all have the same motif. You know, they are what Aborigines, that word means is they come from that land, where all us Europeans know we are bastards that come from God knows where, you know. So, and we're like, you know, a plague. We roam the planet, destroying it, right? Have been amazing of late. Oh, tell me, bud, what have your dreams been? I've had, you know, my dreams have been weird to the point where I can't tell what's a dream and what's reality. You know, I had this little experience last few days where I go down to the deep green and I'm puttering around, and then things show up, right? And then I wake up, and it's, you know, I swear that I woken up, taken a shower, had breakfast, gone down there, puttering around, and these guys show up, and you know, this one guy, he is like a mix between a man in black and a shadow person, right? And all he says is yes or, you know, he basically said, okay, ask me questions. I'll say yes, no, or that doesn't matter. Not all of us are a virus. This is true, right? And, you know, I keep saying this, everything is as it should be, meaning whatever colossal cluster frac is going on, it's what's meant to be. Because what's going on now is actually going to save us from the future, because we're heading into an ice age. And if we had this just in time thing still cooking when the ice age falls upon us, we'd be in worse shape. Now we are 9 to 20 years out from the ice age. It's going to happen in the 2030s somewhere. And by that time, you know, population will have been cut down a bit. All of the, you know, bad players, usual suspects that start wars and banking fraud and industrial waste, and, you know, they'll be gone. They're the ones who are the most tenable. They're not, when this thing really starts to crack apart, they're, you know, me, some little guy out in the woods eating bark, you know, I'll have more chance of staying alive than those guys, right? No matter what deep, you know, bolt hole they can go into. Man, I've been in a few of them. And when you go 900 feet underground and you got a million people in a hole, that's a lot of crap. A lot of sewage. You have to go. The smell is, you know, I was down there in one of those places in upstate New York. That's, you know, went from the Finger Lakes to upstate New York to Ohio. It was an old salt mine, you know, and it was that vein. It was 900 feet underground, and it was about a quarter mile wide, about 200 feet high, and from, you know, the Finger Lakes to New York to Ohio. And, you know, it was like a little, you know, world down there. They had apartment buildings and parks, and they had, you know, light like you couldn't believe bouncing off the top of the salt vein. And it was, hey, you know, and I didn't want to stay down there. I didn't even want to go down there. You know, I didn't, you know, my boss said, you got to go fix this. And I, you know, anyway, not to mention relationships in my dreams. Yep, visual and very memorable. Okay, well, good. Did you get my email? I'll have to go look. When did you send it? And I'll go look at that time. Right. I hope I did. The dude awake 42 at Gmail. Right. And if I get it, I will start conversing with you on the Gmail. Right. And the monetary, the physical thing is not that important. I'll have what I need. The universe always takes care of me, and I'm living quite nicely, so I'm fine. So I'll go look. Ooh, let's see. I'll go look on my phone for the Gmail. So when did you send it? Oh, there you are, buddy. There you are. Hi, Bob. Please excuse. Oh, yep. Oh, good. We can. Yeah, good. And you sent me a nice little one. A real conversation. That's what I can't stand it when people just send me an emoji and a few letters that I'm supposed to know what they mean. This is very nice. Thank you, buddy. I got your message. Here it is. Yep. Yep. Yeah, I know. And we're going to have more, So that's why we need to really enjoy every minute in the moment this day, because who knows what the next day is going to be like. And if you're having really good dreams, well, that is good. Okay, I'll go take a look. And what else can I say? But I love you, I got your email. Yep. Mm-hmm. And I will check. Let's see. Maybe I can check. I need my laptop to check. But I'll check PayPal. And whatever I receive, I thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And, you're on my email, so we can talk on email. And let's see. Players, familiar. Yep. And all the, political blah, 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 it's irrelevant. I'm sitting down in my neighbor's basement, relatively warm. I'm going to take a shower. Then I'm going to go about a half mile that way to where my deep green is and putter around. Because right now, like it's supposed to snow tonight. So where I live in the deep green is bucolic and angelic and like heaven once the temperature, at night stays above 50. Even, stays above 38. It's livable. And if it's 38 and it goes up to 60 or 70 during the day, I can deal with that. But it's a lot nicer to have a toilet that is only, 10 steps from my bed, nice cushy bed, and, has a really nice hot shower and washer dryer and a kitchen upstairs. That's nice. Where I do have a toilet, but I have to walk a football field, like 60 meters or more, maybe 160 meters from my sleeping platform to where the toilet is. And, late at night, if it's raining, it's no fun, right? So in the summertime, not so bad, because I barely wear any clothes. Just wear shirts and a t-shirt. And if it rains, it's like, okay, where's the bar soap, And so, that's my shower, is rain, right? And in the summertime, wearing it's nice when it's cold to take a hot shower every morning. I sit in there and let that. It's a really great shower. really strong hot water and go, ooh, it's like getting a massage. But in the summer, my garden hose, which is about 400 feet long until where the water comes out of the ground, and that 400 feet is in the sun, that's like, 20 gallons of hot water. I'm really hot water, enough for a shower, What do I need? Moped? No. I don't need, I just need 2 legs that work. Living in the Deep Green, it's good that stuff is spread out. I have my garage, I have my bus, I have my little shack, right? My little sleeping platform. And they're all about, 120 meters away from each other or more. And it's good that I have to, and they're all in a slight incline and downcline, so it's good that I walk up and down. And it does 3 things. It gives me exercise. It makes me be really conscious because I have to look when I'm putting every one of my feet. So I don't, because if I fall over, I'm like a teacup, I could break real easy. I'm of that age. And so, it makes me be really conscious. And that consciousness, leads to prayer and meditation. So every time I walk around, I'm praying and meditating, because that really brings my focus to every step, right? So when you do stuff, hey there, Lana, darling. Good to see you. Which state am I in? I'm in a state of love for you guys. That's what state I'm in. But I'm literally right on the border. I am in this amazing swirly place of Tennessee, North Carolina, and Virginia. And West Virginia and Kentucky are just a little north of me by the way the crow flies, about 30 to 50 miles. The way the car drives, maybe 60 miles. But I'm right on the border of those 3 states, right? And it's what's really strange is that I'm also on the border of 4 counties. And I'm really on the border of all those places. So, my phone doesn't work. I have to drive either to North Carolina or Tennessee, or I don't drive to Virginia much, unless I'm going there. But because the stores and doctors and all the rest aren't as good as the other 2 places, which are, 20 miles closer. So North Carolina is actually closer. To Boone is only about 30 miles to Boone, and about 40 miles to Johnson City, right? So those are the 2 towns, and they're both big college towns, and those kids are gone. And so I've, those towns are, totally gone. Nobody's there. Yep, sour mash country. Yep, definitely. And bud and everything else you could think of. And but see, when I'm in this 200 square mile Appalachian poverty. So they're so poor they don't even do that stuff. They are consumers of that stuff. And they're all, it's what's sad is like, I've been here 20 years, give or take. And the oldest person, they don't get above 58. And they're in terrible condition by the time they're 30, right? They're overweight, they're obese, they busted themselves up. It took me almost 70 years to lose my teeth, and I had bad gene pool. They lose their teeth by the time they're 20-something because they start, putting tobacco right there, snuff, by the time they're 9, right? And then, they start smoking cigarettes by the time they're 12, and they're dead of cancer by the time they're 32. So that's why they don't really have health care here. And the opioid thing, really, there's over in Virginia, not too far from here, it's in this little town that doesn't even have a name. It's just this pharmacy. And this little pharmacy that had nobody, in their county, they had no more than 1,500 people. For the last, 18 years, have been filling out prescriptions for over 9 million people a year for OxyContin. So that's the neighborhood I live in. And, there's so few people, there's no real crime. And everybody knows everybody. And nobody has anything worth stealing. So it's, pretty bucolic. Everybody does have a gun. I don't have a gun. Everyone knows I don't have a gun. So, if everything happened, people would come and try and protect Al with their guns. Because I'm the one guy who knows, how to keep electricity going, who knows, if they break an arm, how to set it so it will be relatively healed, and I have, if you need a safety pin, I got a couple boxes of them, the things I have are, things you kind of would need, but don't care about, right? I don't have any gold or anything really of great value, right? Oh, what is nearest town? Like I just said, the two nearest towns are Boone, North Carolina, and Johnson City, Tennessee, right? And they're little hollery. There's a place called Butler. That's maybe about 18 miles from me. But that's the closest thing that could even. And that's not a town. It's used to be a town until they built the dam and flooded it. That was a town of 3,000 people because it had a big valley that had beautiful farms on. And they built a dam, and flooded out the valley, and really gave the people no choice. They built a dam and really didn't ask them about it. They dammed up this river and just started to fill a lake up. And basically flooded a town of 3,000 people. Now the town of Butler maybe has 200, 400 people. It only has a gas station. That's it. Gas station and a bank. That's it. And the bank is it's not a real bank. It's just a cash machine. That's their bank. But they used to have a movie theater and a couple of supermarkets and a pharmacy and a whole bunch of stuff. And when the TVA lowers the lake, you can go out in a boat and look at the town. The roads are still there, and it's quite interesting. So that's, I'm out. That's why I picked this place. I'm out in the middle of nowhere, right? It's nowhere. And there's only one county road that's about 8 miles that away. And everything else is holler roads, dirt roads, gravel roads, county roads, not state roads. And so that's kind of it, until I have to go 30 miles to Boone or 40 miles to Johnson City, to hit a supermarket. And that's it, And I'm right on the edge of so many places that all the different, like police there are no fire departments. There is nobody coming with an ambulance. If you can't get yourself to one of those two places, you're, pretty much, there are no doctors, no dentists. So that's why I had all my teeth ripped out of my head, in 2019, because I actually had dental care from that HMO in Virginia. And, they said, well, unless you get implants, we're not going to, it's just going to have problems unless you pull them all out. And I said, okay, pull them all out. So I did. I said, we can get you false teeth. But my gums are so strong, I don't need false teeth. And you can't even tell that I don't have teeth, right? When I show it to you, it looks like I got teeth, but it's my gums. So the only thing I can't do is eat corn or eat an, apple. I can't bite into an apple, and I can't eat meat off the bone, right? And so I, cook it up, chop it up, and eat it. So anyway, let's see, what else are you saying? People, American people like to help. Well, they like to think they help. Like, when this happened, there's a big mega church in Boone, right? big. I mean, their church sits, 1,000 maybe or more, and their parking lot is gigantic, right? Anyway, so then they couldn't do that anymore, right? So they decided, okay, well, we're gonna we because all those people got a lot of money, all in the parking lot. It's always Audis and Mercedes. So, that's one place. If I don't want to go all the way into Boone, this is like on a hill. I can drive into their parking lot during the week when no one's there, and use the cell signal gets to me, and that's only 16 miles from my front door. So if I don't want to drive another 12 to 15 miles to the Walmarts or the supermarket, I go to that parking lot. So I went there one day, beginning of April, I guess. Right. Anyway, so I was up there and I saw the sign saying, food line, not food lion, but a line, right? And they had little orange cones and there was nobody there. And so after I made all my phone calls, I kind of drove down and this lady came out with a box and she goes, here's some food. And it was about 4 cans of food, a roll of toilet paper, and a couple of boxes of pasta, and a very nice loaf of bread, right? And I said, oh, this is nice bread. Where does that? Oh, they said, oh, this is, what do they call it? Fancy bakery, old time bakery. It was really good old bread. And the guy who owns it is, part of the church. So he decided to keep his workers working, and he would, the church would buy the bread at cost from him, right? And that way he could keep his business open. And, so anyway, I went back and they said, every Monday you can come. And I said, look at it, and it's, like I said, it's just every Monday you can come. So next Monday I show up and there is, I kind of roll in and there's still not many people online. But the lady says, oh, we've had so many people show up that we can only do this once a month. So come back. I guess it was March is when I first went, and then April. Anyway, so I've been back 3 different times. Once when I got something. The next Monday after that, when they said, oh, you got to come back next month. And then April, 1st, Monday, I guess it wasn't Monday, but the first Monday in April, I went back again. And they said, well, now we don't do it Mondays. We do it Tuesdays and Thursdays, and only for members of our church. Because those people who were, only in Mercedes and Audis, they lost their job. And they didn't have any money, really. They were living, high on the hog, paycheck to paycheck, and now they have no money to buy food. I at least have, they don't have food stamps, because they're rich. I at least have $54, in food stamps. So, and, I got the woods out here that I'm eating at. I will be eating out, in about a week or two. The blueberries will start to up. I already looked at them, and they want to come out, but they haven't quite. Like I said, it's going to snow tonight, so which berry shows up? The blueberries, and then the blackberries, and then the raspberries, and then the wineberries. So I have berries all, spring, summer, and fall on, from May until end of October. So anyway, that goes to the story of, here these people wanted to help, but now they only help their own, And anyway, so this lady, she says, well, we're not serving people like you anymore. And I said, well, I'm the real poor. And she goes, well, you're lucky. You're used to it. She actually said that. You're used to it. These people are scared. They don't know what to expect. And, that's it. But if my car gives out the day, I here, period. I won't be getting around, period. Right? So, anyway. Talk to local news, maybe church. I know everyone in a 60-mile. I've been here 20 years. I've been on every board. I've been in every study. I've helped people write grants. I know lots of the churches. I know everybody. I know what's going on. I see it. And and that lady's right. In a lot of ways, I'm better off than all the rich people who, like that. They didn't even think about that this was going to happen. And that's why this is good, because this happened now and not 10 or 12 years from now when we're going to be in the middle of an ice age, So a lot of people are going to freak out. A lot of people, we will, have a culling of the herd. But this, the real thing that will deal with this virus, this is just another flu. It's a bad one. It's a bioengineered weapon, so it's a little more specific. And but what's going to, and this is what bioengineered weapons are engineered to do, not to kill everyone, but to disrupt the economic system. And this one's doing a good job. And basically, there is no vaccine for this. What's going to happen is in, 2 to 5 years, pretty much everyone will have, herd, what do they call it? They'll be herd immunized, And my mom used to do that back in the day when measles and mumps and chicken pox were really the scourge of the 50s. She would take us to the family that just had it, right? And she would find the kids who didn't get really sick, maybe had a little sniffle but didn't break out into the full thing, right? And then she would tell that mother, hey, listen, I'm going to, you're having a hard time. You got all these kids and they're driving you nuts. Why don't I take these two to my house and keep them for a while, right? And we would play with them. We'd eat with them. They'd stay with us. And we may get a little sniffle or two, but we would be herd immunized, right? And that's kind of how it works, right? Who are you all in here? Right. So Buddy is here. Anna, you're here. AI is here, keeping an eye on us all, and somebody else. Right. So, Lana, what have your dreams been like lately? Damn you, internet gods. Well, I get a lot. Like I'm staying with my neighbor in his nice warm house and taking a warm shower and, eating his warm food. I'm being helped out. And that's what you have when you live in a close-knit community that isn't run by institutions like churches and governments, right? Those things fail. There is a really good church in a nearby city that I drive about 40 miles to. And they're Catholic, which, this is a very Baptist neck of the woods, so they're Catholic, but they're the only ones doing a food bank. And they do a very good food bank. And so I haven't been by in a while. So I'm going to go this Thursday. That's, the third Thursday is their day. And so I'm going to see how crazy it is. But I don't think it's going to be that crazy because pretty much everyone in that town is poor and goes to that food bank, right? And you have to sign up. You can't, like that other church I went to, you could just drive through, for the first week or so, but then it was only for the people in their church. Whereas this Catholic church, they feed everybody, but you have to prove, that where you live and how much money you make, and that you're not a really rich guy. But pretty much everyone in the county goes to that food bank. It's a really well organized big thing, and until the lines of transportation of food to them runs out, it'll. So I'm going to go see what it's like this coming Thursday. I didn't go last. It's the first Tuesday and last Thursday, and I didn't go that Tuesday because I'm sticking around here and not going out. Because it's so beautiful and nice. That Tuesday was a beautiful sunny day, and why waste gas and etc. So I'm really in pretty good shape. As I've always been. No matter, I've been in war zones. I've been in some pretty sketchy places. And I was living with these guys, for a whole year, and, my house, or the thing I lived in, slept in, I didn't live in this thing. I lived in the out and about. But pretty much, that was me with the elder, the griot of their thing, the storyteller. Everyone had bare feet. No one had shoes, I got my army boots. And that's all I had was a pair of underpants. That's all I was wearing. Pair of underpants. And I had a kind of shirt or thing that I would throw over me. This is like almost 5, 6 o'clock at night. And so the sun isn't really, 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 really bad. But I had a big umbrella, and where is our house? And here's my lovely Donna Ann, and look how happy she is. Look at that smile on her face. And, no toilet for a whole year, no running water for a whole year. Bugs, there were spiders that were all over this place that if they bit you, you were dead in 3 minutes, and 900 miles the closest doctor. And look at her. She's just ecstatic, and so I hung out with the elder guys, and this woman was the head. She was in charge. And so she took Donna under her arm and taught her herbs and healing and magic, And Donna and that old lady knew that Donna came from her grandmother, was like the old crone, was a woman of the woods, right? And so we lived with these guys, and the white people, we were so far from the average white people. But when we would go into what they call, so here was our house, right? That was our house. This is what we slept in. We didn't have a tent. We didn't have camping equipment. We didn't have a blow-up mattress. We didn't have a tarp. We didn't have a sleeping bag. We didn't have a pillow, right? We had that, and it was like a holler of that whole area was a wet plain, and that's why that grass grew up. And when it wasn't in the wet season, it was really dry, and it was kind of a big rock with a lot of clay on it. And the nasty insects didn't like the clay. So the ants that would eat you up, the spiders that would kill you, the flies, and the other insects that were nasty, bothered you. Well, they wouldn't touch you if you were eating what the Aborigines were, the stuff, the tubers and the plants growing around, and, the few little things, the fish that they would find. And it looks like a desert, but they have these things like the Grand Canyon, but they're little, and there's a lot of water that falls there, but only at certain times. And it falls, and it has eaten these rivulets or canyons out of the rock, and it fills it up. And some of these suckers are 1,100, 2,000 foot deep. And that's really good water that stays there. And so it kind of cores it out, and there's only a little sliver the big, canyon that's there, filled with water, is mostly covered. There's only, above it, just a slight opening somewhere between a meter or two to, 50 meters, right? And along the edge is like a little beach. And there's the curved, cave or canyon wall. And instead of being really wide, it's really deep. And so when it gets really hot, you kind of go down there. And where our little house was one of those, but the direction of the water changed, and so it was no longer dug out, so it didn't get really deep like these other canyons. But when it flooded, it became a floodplain. But it was this rock with clay, right? So the insects didn't like it because it was either too wet or way too dry, one or the other. It was neither the happy medium that they liked, right? And under the trees is where the insects were. And there were trees, but not forests, just individual trees here and there. And so, we lived, so this was, big rock, a big, that had been, the beginning of a canyon some umpteen zillion years ago. But because of the way the water moved, it didn't dig it out deep. But it was a nice little thing, and it had clay, really. And so when it was dry, the grasses would grow up there because it was a floodplain. So the Aborigines showed us how to build a real Aborigines house. Now, they basically slept under the stars and had military, the government had given tents. And that was kind of where they kept their stuff and their kitchen. And when it rained, they would go in there, right? It was like the community center, right? They had two kind of big tents. And then tarps, and they put everything underneath these stands of trees. So that you were guarded, and, the fire pits were there. And that's where the community hung out, during the day. And, pretty much this tribe, had, worked maybe 2 hours a day. They would go, there were these kind of canyons, and along the canyons, where the beach met the water, there were all these, and the sun kind of came in, there were all these tubers and water plants that were actually quite great vegetables, and they would pick those, right? And at certain points of entry into these things, there were berries, all different kinds of berries that were more indigenous to that place than this place. So they weren't like really any, they weren't like blueberries or raspberries or any, but they were their own berries, and they were kind of nice, and they made a hooch out of that stuff. And what else? So a lot of insects, that was the main of their diet. And those insects were ready to go, meaning all they did was go to a dead tree, pull the bark away, and the larvae would be there. They'd mush it up with a rock, put it in the sun, wait till it got crispy, and then eat it. It was like ready. It was like right there, right? So, and there were a ton of those trees, and wherever, that neck of the woods stopped providing for them, they would walk, the whole crew would get walkabout. And they worked, a month or two for the cattle folk, because they were the best of cowboys. And the white people couldn't do the job that they could ride horses, they could talk to the animals, they could make them do stuff that the white people couldn't do. So, once a year, they would work for about 2 months and, make $1,000, give or take. And they had relationships with these guys, and they were friendly with them. And so those guys would come and check on them, a couple times a month, and if they needed to move, they would bring their big truck and they'd throw all the stuff and they'd drive over to where they were going to go, right? So it was and those guys who ran the, what they were called, posts, or they didn't call them ranches. There was another term for them. But anyway, there would be that ranch guy who owned everything. And in that, there it was like a little town was there, but not a town. It was like a general store that the rich guy owned, and a few trailers that the guys who worked for him lived in, and that was about it. What did they call them? Stations. That's what they call them, stations. And they'd have a bar, an outdoor bar, and the Aborigines loved going there and getting drunk, and gambling, and starting fights. And they wouldn't start fights with white people or gamble with white people. They would fight and gamble with their buddies, the other Aborigines, right? And it's like, do you ever have a brother and you have a slap fight? That was the kind, but they'd be really drunk, and they would just, and they would laugh, and they thought that was so funny, and they would gamble. And the white people would talk to me, these people are just so, we don't understand. I mean, they're the best, ranch hands you could ever have. The way they deal with animals, it's like magic. But, we give them money, and do they buy anything? No, they gamble, and one or two guys wins all the money, and then all the others don't have any money. I said, you don't understand. They don't, they don't believe in money the way you do. So they use it like chips, and they gamble, and one guy wins, and he feels really great, but then he gives all the money back to his brethren when they need it, or if back when they get back there, right? Because everyone had a little can of money in the ground, and if white people, stupid white people knew that, they would probably try and take it from them. But I'm sure that crew is all dead. So, but they were happy, and again, this is how they lived, And this guy, the one I opened, this guy right here, this guy, he was the best gambler. He was the best fighter, right? He was the best runner, right? Look at these feet. Look at those. Those are feet. Those aren't shoes. Those are feet. He has never had a pair of shoes. The only time they wear shoes is when they're cowboys riding horses, because they kind of have to protect their feet. But walking around, this is them. So this guy was the richest guy. He was the guy who always had cans of money. He was like the banker. And this was his home. He didn't have a tent. He slept under the stars on this mattress. And he was the richest, happiest guy there. So when you try and look at our our civilization is toast. It's not coming back, gang. And we have to invent a new one. And why do you think I have been talking for 2 years? We need to develop an alternative aesthetic. Why do you think for the last year I've been counting down for the this is the window of opportunity right now. This is the event that is the open window, right? And I'd love it if we could talk about that, instead of me, oh, you need to go to Johnson City. No, I don't need to go to Johnson City. Right? I don't need to go to any city. I'm fine right here, right? I talk to local news guys, forget about it. They are pudding heads. So who are you all in here? Like I said, it's Buddy. Buddy's there. So a Buddy before. Yes, well, why don't you get people? It's only backs. Peace. Why don't you greet people? It's only backs. Anyway, that's what I'd like to talk about. What you would want to see your world to be, because kids, after the shock, after May, this is when reality is going to start to set in, when the supply chain really starts to crash. I mean, the farmers are in Florida are plowing in billions of tons of food that people are hungry for in this country, and they can't transport it because it's too complicated. All of that food was meant to go to restaurants, and the supply chain only goes. They can't turn it and bring it to the people who are hungry. Now, you'd think those people in their Audis, instead of wasting all the gas waiting online, they would drive to Florida where the farms are and work in the fields. And the other main reason why the food isn't being picked is that this present administration has been so harsh on the people from south of the border, who are the main farmers in this country. So unless they have a whole technocracy of robots that will walk around and look like you and pick fruit and not, get viruses, this supply chain culture is not going to survive, past August, if that. Not to say there won't be certain things in the supermarket and that, certain things will, things like delivered by pipelines, there'll be plenty of oil and gas and stuff, right? But the parts for your nice Tesla car, not really. People have really expensive cars, not really. Unless there are a lot of parts hanging out, not really. And that's why I bought, 2 years ago, I got a beater car just for a thing like this, which is a Honda that those parts are like in everyone's backyard. But I didn't have that last $200 to get it out of the backyard of my mechanic. And he wasn't going to let me. I kept saying, come on, you're making lots of money. Why don't you, I'll pay you $10 every time I see you. Just let me have this car. No, can't do that. Well, he's good luck with him. He's a nice enough guy. He's my friend. I like him. But he let me keep that car in his gated, backyard, kept it safe. I mean, without causing me I didn't have to pay rent, So everything is, if I was meant to have that car, I will get it, period. That's about it. So, hour and 17 minutes. And so at 1:21:11, I will sign off, but again, I would love it if we could talk about an alternative aesthetic to this. And I would love it, Lana, if you told me your dreams. Buddy tells me his dreams. Others tell me their dreams. We need, even though we're all around the world, I mean, we have this opportunity, this technology to communicate and talk and build a cadre, And unless we start cadreing it, we're not much of a cadre. We're more, that's why I call the live chat a chorus. It's more people just singing. But I'd love to hear you sing about your deeper feelings, your deeper ideas. And I keep telling you stories, of hope and reality, and showing you little bits of what I find on the internet, So anyway, actually, I'm going to skip out sooner rather than later. Okay. So I'll do another live chat this evening around 7 p.m. Well, maybe 5 p.m. 5 p.m. Eastern Standard, sometime between 5 and 7. Maybe, let's say 6, right? Or between 5:30 and 6. How about that? Between 5:30 and 6 Eastern Standard Time. Okay. Can you see the names that are in here? I don't know how to. I mean, when they chat, I can see them. I really don't know how to run this thing. I just know how to hit live chat, and go live, and that's about it. And I learned about the 3 little buttons on the side. That's like the 3 seashells. There's Buddy. And, and I used to be a no wrench channel because I have no idea how to wrench people. People say, oh, give me the wrench and I'll take them off the channel. I said, no. But we have a few, I don't know if it's the same troll or a couple trolls, but they come in and they have the same syntax and the fact that they have no energy behind them. Meaning, you guys, you are alive with juice. Lana, Buddy, Alan, and about 20 others. When you do show up, it's like, you guys have something to say. Even if you're not saying anything, you got something to say. Your energy is really heartwarming. Me neither. They are the Men in Black. Yeah. And I had if I'm going to do this, I'll do this. I had a dream the other day, and I didn't know whether I was awake. It was a lucid dream, So I dreamt I woke up, took a shower, had breakfast, went down to the deep green, started putting around, and this kind of shimmer, I saw the shimmer come out of a cloud and go around the deep green and come and appear on my deck that I was sitting on, drinking a cup of coffee, looking at the beautiful day. And it was this man in black, but he was a glimmer rather than a man in black. And the only thing that was, not glimmering was his face, right? And all I could really see of his face was his two eyes and his mouth. And I said, "Hey, how you doing?" And he just went like this. And I said, "Well, who are you?" And he said, "It's not relevant." And I said, "So you're only going to answer relevant questions?" And he said, "Yes." And I said, "I guess you're only going to say yes, no, and it's not relevant." He goes, "Yes." So we had a very nice conversation about everything that's going on. And he answered it, yes, no, and it's not relevant. And it was quite interesting, right? And I said, "Are you the Man in Black?" And he said, "It's not relevant." I said, "Are you a shadow person?" "It's not relevant." "Are you a man in black and a shadow person?" "Yes." And that's how I had to have the conversation with him. And, so then I kind of, did that and made a meal and said, "Do you want any of these?" No, not relevant. And we talked for about an hour. And then all of a sudden I woke up in bed. And I swore that actually happened, but I woke up in bed. Whether he put me back in bed, and I had done a morning show, and I said, "I'm going to go back to sleep." But I swore that I kind of went to sleep, woke up, took a shower, had breakfast, went down there, and I woke up, and it was, still the morning, not the afternoon. So that was quite interesting. And then the next day, yesterday, I guess, or the day, maybe it was Easter. No, it was Monday. That thing happened on Easter, which was interesting, And yesterday I went, and like I said, the animals, I've been there now a whole year. I go away for a week or two, when I went to the doctors and stuff, but now that's over, I'm kind of here. And the raccoons are the only ones and they leave they go step in them. If it rains, they go step in mud and leave their footprints on my deck and on my table just to say, "Hey, we're here." And the only thing they've been messing with, because last year when I was gone for the whole winter and I came back, they had ravaged the place, just tore it apart. It took me all summer to kind of put it back together. And so I've been here all this time, but like I said, a week or two, I had gone off to see my doctors, but now that's non-existent. So I'm going to be here. And I have kind of doctors here, So yesterday I went and I found there were 2 vitamin jars that they had opened and spread the vitamins all over the place. And I don't know if they're like eating them so they can pump iron or whatever they're doing. And they don't go after, and I'm herbalist, so that I have lots of jars of herbs and vitamins and stuff all over the place. And they never went after him. Now they go, but they only go after 2 or 3 at a time. Not they don't rip the whole place apart. They just took whatever the easiest. And so, and there's these 2 cans of food that they have tried to get into, and they can't. So they've ripped off the label. It's rolled off into the ground so the can starts rusting. But the rest of the camp, once they started doing that, I put them all in boxes and moved them so they can't get at them, because that's when I have to eat in the next year or 2. So yesterday, so the last time they went after vitamin C, ate all of these gummies, vitamin C and vitamin D3 gummies, right? And they were new ones, meaning they were, in a box with stuff on top of it. And they kind of just, they didn't ravish the whole thing. They just kind of went through the box, grabbed those 2 things. And they were like child-proof caps. You had to push them down and twist them. And they opened them up, right? And then the aluminum thing, they had taken their little nail and taken that out and just eaten all the gummies. So things were on the ground. So I picked them up. I put some soap in them. I put water in it. I put the lid back on. I kind of shook it and put it on a seat in the sun and left it there. And so yesterday when I came back, they were both opened, right? And both lids were on the seat, and one of them was turned upside down and put on the seat, and the other one was like, 60 meters away in the grass, upside down, like this, upside down. And on the table, I had up on the shelf, I had a Swiss Army knife that I found a couple of days ago, because I've been going through all my stuff looking for, and that's where, I found this. I forgot I even had made this book of these photos, right? I made this like 30 years ago. And so I found it, and oh, look at that. Isn't that nice? And I found these other books. I found this book, which is really one of my, hard to find. This is all about, a book of Moses' magic, the 6th and 7th books of Moses. And, so that's a very esoteric, occult book. And I found a number of my rune books that I thought I'd lost forever, but I found them, right? And so I'm slowly going through all the boxes and bags and stuff of my stuff, that are on pallets. And it's amazing. I take, the tarp that I have over, wrapped all, I put all the stuff in garbage bags, tied them up, put them on pallets so the water on the ground wouldn't get at them, and wrapped them up in a tarp. And then, over the years, leaves had fallen down and covered them. And some of those tarps had rotted, and the stuff underneath got, messed up. But a lot of these, I've gone through most of these lumps of stuff. And what's really interesting, like, the lump I found had a box in it that there were clothes that were rotted. But this box that had these books in it wasn't touched, wasn't wet, wasn't moldy, wasn't smelly. It was like pretty amazing. So the other day, I find these 2 jars opened and left in a very strange way. And this Swiss Army knife that I had found, but I left it in its package. On the table, the package was opened. The knife was in the mud. And all of the blades and the little saw, the sharp blade, the can opener, all of those things were out. They had pulled every one of those things out and left it in the mud puddle. And, there was, just one day, they did it that night, and I found that, and I, hosed it off. It was good as new, so I put it back on that shelf. And I guess I left and came back, and the Swiss Army knife was off the shelf and on the table, not in the mud this time, but all of the blades pulled out. So either the raccoons are doing it, or Mr. Shimmer is doing it, or a ghost of some paranormal sort. So and that's why I'm not leaving this neck of the woods, because it's getting more interesting, right? So that's why I don't need to live in a city. I grew up in New York City. I don't need cities. My mom saw two in Casaubon. I jumped from a house and a house. Creek 3, all those people that the creature humped on the ceiling of dies. So that was is that a dream? Can't we talk about a Mothman? I just did, right? That's as close to a Mothman as I can find. Please, before you go. Okay, I just did. Was that good? Greasy. Well, Mr. Shimmer seems nice. We had a very nice conversation. He wasn't scary. He was very gracious. When I offered him food, he was, not relevant. So, yeah, me too. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna take a shower. I'm looking for that hot shower, and it's almost noon. So, love you, sweethearts, all 5 of you, and Lena and Buddy. Thanks for coming on the live chat. I always love chatting with you. And I'll get a hold of you, both of you, on the Gmail. Anyone who wants to talk to me, the dudeawake42@gmail. So I love you guys, and I'm going to sign off right now.